My phone lit up during a root canal, and in that split second, I knew my family had just invaded the one place I'd kept hidden from them. We've booked the entire week of July 4th at your new Lakehouse. I'm standing there, gloved hands frozen, scalar still humming, and my assistant is staring at me because apparently my face just did something. Another text comes through. Whole family. 32 people. I set the scalar down. The click was too loud. Everything felt too loud suddenly. My name is Tyla Kent, and I need you to understand something about being the middle child in a family like mine. You become invisible in a very specific way. You're there, you're functional, you're useful, but you're never really seen. Not the way they see your older brother when he walks into a room. Not the way they see your younger brother when he flashes that easy smile. Sean was the athlete, the risk-taker, the one mom bragged about at every family gathering. Ryan showed up with charm that required zero effort. Me? I was the reliable one. The one who covered when Sean forgot appointments. The one who found Ryan's lost keys, his wallet, his entire backpack some weekends. If something spilled, it landed on my side of the table. If something needed doing, it somehow became my responsibility. And here's the thing nobody tells you about being reliable, it becomes your entire identity. People stop seeing you as a person with needs. You become a function. A tool. Something they reach for when they need something fixed. My mother Olivia would pat my arm. Thank you for being reliable, sweetheart. My father Ben would nod like he just confirmed a work assignment. Never a question about what I wanted. Never a thought about what it cost me to always be the one who showed up. Reliability is a trap. You don't see the cage until you're locked inside it. So I learned to make myself smaller. I kept my needs simple. I managed my own expenses and wrote every bill in a spiral notebook so worn the cover curved. I didn't ask for help because help always came with commentary. I didn't mention dreams because dreams got repurposed into someone else's convenience. But I kept one dream tucked away. One place they couldn't touch. The lake. Growing up, whenever we drive past still water, just a glimpse from the highway, something inside me would unclench. I'd imagine a life where no one barged in, where no voices talked over each other, where obligations didn't disguise themselves as love. When I found the listing for the A-frame cabin, it wasn't discovery. It was recognition. Like that place had been waiting for me to catch up. The pictures showed everything I'd been dreaming about for years. A small dock extending into calm water. Windows that faced east toward sunrise. A kitchen just big enough for one person who actually wanted to be there. It wasn't grand. It wasn't impressive, but it was mine before I even walked through the door. I didn't tell my family when I toured it. Didn't tell them when my offer got accepted. Didn't tell them the night I signed the closing documents with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. The only person who knew was Leah, my one friend who'd seen enough of my family to understand why secrecy wasn't pettiness, it was protection. She's the one who drove me to the closing. Sat in the parking lot with me for 20 minutes while I tried to stop my hands from shaking. Didn't say anything, just waited. That's real friendship. I thought I had time. Time to find the right moment to explain. Time to show my parents the kitchen I'd painted myself. Time to let my brothers see I'd built something without their shadow on it. But families like mine don't wait. They decide. And when they want something, they don't ask who it belongs to. Which is why that preview line, "We've booked the entire week of July 4th, felt less like an announcement and more like a verdict. I didn't listen to the voicemail right away. I finished cleaning my station, peeled off my gloves, washed my hands until the water ran cold again. Routine kept my chest from tightening. But when I finally stepped into the supply room, away from the patients and the noise, I pressed play. My mother's voice burst through like someone swinging open a door without knocking. "We've booked the entire week of July 4th at your new Lakehouse." I stared at the wall of labeled bins. Gauze, polish, sterilization pouches. Everything in perfect order. The words didn't match the room I was standing in. They didn't match anything. Mom sounded cheerful. Triumphant, even. "Whole family," she said, like that clarified everything. 32 people. She emphasized it like she was proud of the number. Like it was a gift. Like the weight of 32 bodies, 32 expectations, 32 voices crashing into the place I built alone was something I should be grateful for. Then came the part that made my chest tighten. Boats, grills, fireworks, the works. We've been planning this for weeks. Everyone's so excited. Your cousins are bringing their kids. Uncle Gerald is driving in from Michigan. It's going to be the best family reunion we've ever had. Weeks. They'd been planning this for weeks. And not once did anyone think to ask me. I closed my eyes. For a moment, the room tilted. I saw it. Quick flashes. Trailers groaning up my gravel drive. Strangers hauling coolers across my deck. Kids running through the hallway I'd painted with my own hands. My kitchen crowded. My dock shaking. My quiet drowned. They weren't asking. They weren't confirming. They were informing me. Like I was the last to know about plans made on my behalf. My father's voice joined in, faint in the background. It sleeps plenty. She won't mind. She won't mind. That's what they'd always counted on. That I would adjust. That I would absorb. That I would smile and let them take what I never once offered. I didn't replay the message. Every word had already carved itself into place. I picked up my phone again, thumb hovering over the call button. Not to respond. Just to listen to the silence beneath their certainty. The kind of silence that isn't empty, it's electric. They thought I would fold the way I always had. But something in me shifted. Precise and irreversible. Like a lock turning. I didn't call them back. I didn't have to. I drove north without turning on the radio. The road unwound ahead in long stretches, pines lining both sides like they'd been waiting for me to finally stop pretending everything was fine. The 3-hour drive gave me time to think. Time to remember every moment I'd swallowed my own needs for theirs. Every birthday where my gift was an afterthought. Every holiday where I cooked and cleaned while they celebrated. Every time I'd bitten my tongue until it bled because speaking up meant being difficult. The Lakehouse didn't appear all at once. It emerged slowly, then suddenly. Wood frame catching the last threads of daylight. Roofline cutting a sharp angle against the sky. My chest loosened the moment I parked. Even the air felt different here. Cooler. Honest. Inside, everything was exactly where I'd left it. The blue cabinets I'd painted myself, 3 coats because I wanted them perfect. The flannel draped over the back of the chair. The stack of books by the window seat. Nothing loud, nothing crowded. Just stillness. I stood in the center of the living room, hands in my pockets, listening to the house breathe. It had its own rhythm. Creaks settling in the beams, the faint hum of the fridge, and beyond the walls, soft lake water brushing the shore. All of it felt like a question. Are you ready? I was. I started in the kitchen, pulling open drawers, checking every latch, every hinge. I needed to move. Movement was control. I gathered my notebook. Years of penciled numbers, circled payments, lists of repairs saved for another season. Every page was proof this place existed because I built it, not because it fell into my hands. I'd worked overtime for 2 years to save the down payment. Picked up extra shifts on weekends. Skipped vacations. Said no to dinners out. Every dollar accounted for, every sacrifice mine alone. Next came the documents box. Not labeled with anything dramatic. Just a plain container holding the deed, the closing papers, the insurance forms, and receipts from every bundle of lumber, every can of paint, every tool I bought with my own money. I laid them out on the dining table. Not to show anyone. Just to remind myself what was true. My name was on every document. Tyla Kent. Not my parents. Not my brothers. Me. When I was ready, I made the call. The locksmith arrived mid-morning. A quiet man with a steady walk and a toolbox that clinked with purpose. He didn't ask why I needed new deadbolts on every exterior door. Didn't comment when I pointed out the keypad I wanted installed. Didn't even raise an eyebrow when I asked for the final code to be 0814, my birthday, the one day that had always felt invisible in my family. He simply nodded and worked. The clink of metal, the low electric whir, the soft clicks. Each sound felt like a page turning. By noon, he handed me a single ring with 2 keys. Only 2. No spares, no copies, no just in case hidden under the mat. Everything's set, he said. Only opens for whoever you choose. Whoever I choose. The words settled into me like warm stones. After he left, I walked the perimeter of the cabin, locked each door, pressed my palm flat against the cool metal of every new handle. It was ritualistic in a way, each touch anchoring me deeper into my own life. In the afternoon, I cleaned without needing to, wiped the counters, shook out the rugs, swept the floors twice, folded blankets, lined the books evenly, rearranged the mugs. Not because the house demanded it, but because my mind did. Control didn't need volume. It needed precision. As evening fell, I stepped onto the dock. The lake rippled under golden light, quiet and sure of itself. I sat with my feet over the edge, toes skimming the surface. The cold shocked me awake in the best way. Across the water, someone set off fireworks. Early celebrations from the next town over. Sparks lifted bright against the dusk, then faded into smoke. They didn't reach my shore. I watched the reflections break into soft ripples around my ankles. Back inside, I grabbed the small wooden box I'd carved to store keys and placed the new ring carefully in the center. I closed the lid. The soft thud echoed through the room. I didn't have anger in me. Not anymore. What had replaced it was something quiet, solid, and immovable. A decision made without needing permission. I turned off the exterior lights one by one. The path, the porch, the deck. Every bulb flickered out until the house became a dark shape against the water. A place only I could enter. Before bed, I wrote one line in my notebook. Not under the payments column or the repairs list, but on an empty page near the back. This time, I am not giving back anything they take. I closed the notebook with a soft snap. That night, the house felt different. Not fragile. Not waiting. It felt claimed. I woke before sunrise and stood by the window as the sky shifted from slate to pale purple. Mist hovered over the lake. I watched until the first sliver of sun cut through it, thin and deliberate. My phone buzzed on the counter. 3 missed calls. 1 from Mom, 2 from Ryan. I didn't open them. I turned the phone face down again. Same motion from the clinic, but this time steady. Chosen. They wanted a week. They wanted the house. They wanted the quiet I'd built without ever noticing I needed it to survive. They thought I'd fold. But nothing in me was folding. Nothing was bending. Everything in me was aligning. I locked the front door, the deadbolt clicking into place like a point made clear. I won't fix what they've broken, I whispered into the empty room. They arrived on a Thursday afternoon. Loud enough to rattle the quiet before their tires even touched the gravel. I saw the first set of headlights sweep across the trees. A long, confident arc like someone claiming land with light alone. Then another. Then another. From the loft window, I watched the caravan spill into my driveway. 5 vehicles total. All packed with people who'd never once asked if I wanted this. Sean climbed out of his truck first, slamming the door like he owned the air. Ryan followed, juggling coolers and shouting directions at cousins who weren't listening. My parents' SUV parked closest to the porch, like proximity translated to authority. Aunt Brenda was there with her 3 kids. Uncle Gerald with his wife and their twins. Cousins I barely recognized. Their partners. Their children. A sea of people who knew me only as Olivia's daughter or the quiet one. I didn't move. Didn't wave. I just observed. Mom marched up the steps with grocery bags hooked on both arms, her smile already staged. She twisted the doorknob, expecting it to swing open. When it didn't, she jiggled it harder, then reached into her purse for a key that never existed. I waited until she leaned back in confusion before I opened the door myself. The sound was small, The impact wasn't. "Hi, Mom," I said. Voice even. Her expression flickered. Surprise, then irritation. Then something sharper she tried to hide. "Sweetheart, the lock must be sticking. This house is old." "It's not sticking," I said. "It's new." Behind her, Dad frowned, scanning the porch like he was reading a blueprint he didn't approve. Sean stepped forward, grinning wide. Already ready to take charge. This place is unreal. Wait till you see the boat we brought. Kids are dying to get inside. There's no boat launch on my property." I said it quietly, almost gently. It didn't soften anything. Ryan laughed. That loose, careless laugh he always used when he assumed I'd come around. "Don't be weird. Mom said you were cool with it." I looked at my mother. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't ask why. I simply held her eyes long enough for her to feel the weight of the truth. She had mistaken my silence for permission for the last time. "I wasn't asked," I said. The words dropped heavy between us. Mom's smile faltered. "Honey, it's family. We don't need permission for family things. You need permission to use my house." Dad stepped forward. "Tyla, that's enough. We drove 6 hours. I didn't invite you." The silence stretched. Someone behind them coughed. A child asked when they could go swimming. The next 12 minutes felt like watching a machine malfunction in slow motion. Mom tried guilt first. "We just wanted family time. You never host anything. You're always so distant. Because you never let me have anything that's just mine." Dad switched to logic. "Family shares. You don't lock your family out. You didn't share when I asked to borrow the car for my college interview. You didn't share when I needed help with my student loans. This is mine." Sean went practical. "You've got 8 bedrooms. Stop being dramatic. And you've got 0 permission to use any of them." Ryan offered convenience. "It's just a week, Tyla. Come on." Behind them, relatives began unpacking anyway. Setting down bags, unloading a karaoke machine, dragging foldable tables like they were prepping a festival. Like my words meant nothing. Like this was already decided. Someone's child ran toward the dock. I stepped back inside, placed my hand on the door, and closed it. The deadbolt slid into place with a clear, unapologetic click. Voices rose immediately. Confusion. Complaints. Then Mom's voice, breaking into pleas that sounded worn at the edges. "Tyla, open this door right now." Someone knocked. Someone else tried the back door. Sean rattled the handle like force would rewrite ownership. Then came the smallest pause. The moment where they finally understood the boundary was real. I turned off every exterior light until the house was swallowed by the evening. Dark enough for them to see themselves. Quiet enough for me to hear nothing. They called. They texted. Mom left messages that tumbled from irritation to tears. "How could you do this to us? After everything we've done for you?" Dad sent texts about family obligation. Bible verses about honoring your parents. Quotes about selfishness. Sean threatened to camp on the lawn. "You can't keep us out forever." Ryan suggested talking it out. "This isn't you, Tyla. Just let us in and we'll figure it out." I didn't respond. Because here's what they never understood. This was exactly me. The me they'd never bothered to meet. The me who had needs and boundaries and a voice they'd spent my whole life talking over. The sheriff arrived just before dusk. Not because I called, but because someone else did. He knocked once, spoke through the door. Calm and professional. "Ma'am, I'm Sheriff Coleman. They're insisting you let them in. Just need to confirm the property owner." I opened the door enough to hand him my documents. No explanations, no commentary. Just proof. He scanned the name, nodded, and faced the waiting crowd. "She's the owner. She decides who enters. You'll need to leave the property." Mom's voice cracked. "But she's our daughter." "Ma'am, family or not, this is her property. She has every right to deny entry. Dad stepped forward. This is ridiculous. We're not criminals. No, sir, you're not. But you are trespassing. I suggest you find other accommodations. The silence that followed was the loudest sound I'd ever heard from them. Sheriff Coleman tipped his hat to me. You need anything else, ma'am, you call. I nodded. He walked back to his car and waited. Made sure they left. That night, I sat on the dock with a blanket wrapped around my shoulders. The lake mirrored the stars above. Down the road at the public access, 32 people huddled together. Mosquitoes thick, tempers thin, plans collapsing one by one. I could hear them from here. Muffled arguments. Car doors slamming. Someone crying. Part of me felt guilty. The old part. The reliable part. The part that had been trained to absorb everyone else's disappointment. But a newer part, a stronger part, knew this was necessary. They had come expecting a vacation. What they got was a consequence. For the first time in my life, the boundary was mine. And there was nothing left for them to do but feel it. The lake settled back into its rhythm once they were gone. By Sunday evening, the shoreline was clear again. No coolers, no tents, no voices carried across the water. Just quiet. The kind that doesn't wait for permission. I spent the next morning barefoot on the deck. Coffee warming my hands, watching the mist lift in slow, deliberate strands. It felt strange at first. Having nothing to brace for. No footsteps approaching, no decisions being made around me. Just breath. Mine. I walked through the house slowly. Touching the edges of things I'd built. The cabinet doors I'd sanded until my shoulders throbbed. The rug I'd saved for months to buy. The stack of plates Leah and I found at a thrift shop. Everything was exactly where I left it. That alone felt like a victory. The phone stayed silent on the counter. A few missed calls, no new ones. They were giving me space, though not by choice. Space, when earned this way, feels like a room finally cleared of smoke. I spent the afternoons doing nothing that required efficiency. Reading by the window seat until the sun changed angles. Skimming my hand through the water from the dock. Letting time pass without needing to fill it. For years, I thought peace came after someone finally understood me. After someone saw the imbalance, the taking, the assumptions. But standing on that shoreline, watching ripples widen and soften until they disappeared, I realized peace had nothing to do with being understood. It came from choosing myself without asking for permission. Some evenings, I replayed the moment I closed the door. The deadbolt sliding into place. Final and certain. Not out of spite, but to remind myself I was capable of drawing a line and keeping it. That sound became its own kind of release. I didn't know what would happen next with my family. I didn't plan the next conversation or rehearse explanations. I let the uncertainty sit beside me like another presence on the dock. Not threatening. Just there. Quiet. Maybe they'd never speak to me again. Maybe they'd come back with apologies. Maybe nothing would change except me. And that was enough. The lake looked different then. Less like an escape and more like a mirror. It reflected back something I hadn't seen clearly before. A life that didn't disappear when I stopped accommodating everyone else. Boundaries aren't walls. They're doors you learn to lock without apology. And on the night the stars spilled across my lake, I finally understood something simple. Silence isn't absence. It's ownership. Thanks for listening, and if you liked this story, share it with others, and don't forget to comment and subscribe for more stories about finding your voice when the world expects you to stay quiet. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is close the door on what's been hurting you, and finally keep it closed.